Hey there. Any of you ever watch one of those scary horror movies where you know exactly who the murderer or the bad guy is, and you find yourself yelling at the screen to the bubbly blonde girl, "Do not go in the woods with that guy. He didn't lose his puppy. He doesn't even have a puppy. He may look innocent and nice, and all you really want to do is help, but don't go in the woods with that guy." Next thing you know, here comes the Alice Cooper music, and we don't see the blonde girl again till the end when they show the credits. You might be asking yourself, who is this guy and what is he talking about? Well, for the record, my name is Brian Chisholm, private citizen and God-fearing American patriot. And this is why I want to tell you this story. It's about contact tracing. You're going to start to hear this word a lot more often. It's been out there for a long time, but I want to just give you some background on it. And this is why I was inspired this morning to bring it to you. I looked in the Capitol this morning. In today's paper, there's an article about our county executive. In the very second sentence, publicly available Google mobility numbers from cell phone tracking for our county. Anonymous, we hope. That wasn't me, that's the paper. Shows 40% decline in retail and recreational mobility and 30% decline overall. Number one, not so sure why we're tracing people that are doing recreation, but anyhow, let me tell you how it all fits together, because right now I do feel like that guy's still yelling at the screen, don't just go in the woods. So when it comes to contact tracing, this is what it's kind of all about. So it could be used in a very useful and productive way, but just like everything else, it also can be used in a very destructive and deceptive way. So let me explain it to you. So let's pretend that there's a guy, Jimmy, and Jimmy tests positive for the COVID-19 84. Yep, that's right. I call it the COVID-19 84 now because I think George Well would be rolling over in his grave to see what we've done. I mean, we really have. It's gone nuts. But anyway, that's for another story. So let's say that Jimmy tests positive for the COVID-19 84. Doctor tells him he must quarantine at home for 10 to 14 days. 3 days after he starts his quarantine, he gets a call from the Maryland Department of Health. Maryland Department of Health says, look, Jimmy, we're going to need to know who you've been around over the last week or so. Well, Jimmy hadn't really been around a lot of people, but Jimmy says, I don't know, let me think about it. And he remembers. April break my heart. April denied going out with Jimmy and decided she would rather date his best friend, Billy. Well, Jimmy thinks about this and he goes, you know what? I was around April break my heart and my best friend, Billy. So now we have Billy and April break my heart. Maryland Department of Health contacts them, go to their house, say, listen, you must quarantine yourself and anybody you've been around for the last 14 days. If you break that quarantine, you could be fined a tremendous amount of money. If you continue to break it, you face further penalties, such as possibly jail. So now we have two people who were completely healthy, falsely implicated, and the Maryland Department of Health doesn't have to tell either one of them who implicated them. So the first time in American history, we are enforcing quarantine on perfectly healthy people. Now, if we were a just and right society, which I believe we are, I believe all of us are pretty good people. You get COVID-19, you test positive, you would probably just pick up the phone and contact the people you've been around. Say, listen, maybe you want to go get checked. But this enforcement level that we're going into, this is beyond what any of us would ever have imagined just a couple years ago. So let's be careful with it. Well, let's not just go into the woods and end up an Alice Cooper song. But anyhow, I brought you that just to give you a fair warning. I feel like I'm yelling at the screen sometimes, but I feel like you guys will listen. I'm going to leave you with one last story because I told it the other day, and I feel like it's something I got to keep telling people. So there's a story that there was a man who was caught behind enemy lines, finds himself in this cold dungeon, blindfolded. Next morning, captain comes down and says, you're going to face a firing squad. Or you can walk out that door. And he points to a big steel, rusty looking door over in the corner of the room. And he said, what's through that door? He said, no one knows, but it's been best described as pure torment and as close to hell as you can get. The guy chose the firing squad. The captain's secretary looked at him and said, "What's behind that door?" He said, "Freedom. But if you scare people enough, you put the fear of God in them, they will give up their life and their freedom for this perceived safety." I'm telling you that because I know some of the people listening to this, they would walk through that door with me. They would take the chance, walk through that door. Don't give up your life. Read the data. Read everything you can. Do your studying. Find out how this really affects people, and then make the best decision. Do what you can to help your fellow man, your community, your neighbors, your friends. But don't just give up your life and your freedom based on some narrative that somebody's trying to sell you all the time. And be very weary of contact tracing. We've hired 1,000 people to do this from what I understand. That's scary stuff. It may be used for good, but let's avoid the bad stories of somebody using it deceptively in a very bad way. Hey, I love you guys. Hope to walk through that door with you guys soon. Be good. God bless. Contact me if I can help you with anything.